Hello and welcome to Hard Copy this first Friday of the year 2020. I'm Maokbe Ogun Yusuf. What a year 2019 was in our body politic. Nigerians went to the polls, which thankfully were peaceful for most parts, and disagreements and disputes were largely resolved in the courts. We got our first ever sexual offenders register and a renewed awareness to fight and curb gender and sexual-based violence. Externally, Nigerians living in South Africa face xenophobic attacks from their South African hosts yet again, leading to the return home of some of our fellow citizens. On Hard Copy tonight, we curate for you some of the interviews from this program that throw light on these remarkable events and more. Hope was one of the themes which we explored. When you reflect on your growing up years and what you hoped and imagined that this country will be, are you disappointed?
No, I'm not disappointed. I am continuously optimistic that Nigeria's promise will be fulfilled. The biggest concern I have is whether I will see that Nigeria in my lifetime.
I mean, there are questions to be asked as to where exactly the hope, the optimism is coming from.
History tells me, common sense tells me that life itself continues to revolve. Dynasties and empires rise and fall. I think we have been through a difficult 59 years, almost half of which was spent fighting for the political and developmental soul of the country from the military. We now have freedom, so we must become adults in the room now, so there's nobody to tell us what to do again. And so you will see now that the real deal is there's freedom.
I don't know how you got into politics, but I know that you were, the chief of staff to former governor of Lagos State, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and somehow you, from there, he anointed you, so to speak, to become governor. People still believe that you still need that godfatherism, measure or element to be anything in this country. And I think you spoke to it once. Some people believe that was the line between you and the previous governor, perceived to be your godfather. Do you still hold the view that indeed that position, not just the position of governorship, but that governance, politics needs to be thrown open without that element?
There's nothing really ordinarily inappropriate or detestable about the notion. First of all, people must understand Barack Obama was encouraged to run by Senator Harry Reid and late Senator Kennedy.
His response I'm trying to remember, because he said something about that same system which you are asking him to dismantle favored you. Yeah. A lot of Nigerians still believe that you still need to be favored. Has it changed at all? What you are saying, that you are carrying the message of your party or political leadership to the then former governor of Lagos State, who is perceived to be the godfather?
No, well, I mean, those are matters, internal matters, and those are not things
which came out to the public, which was spoken in the public. And of course, there were lots of insinuations then, because you were leaving office and the successor was being...
That's not Nigeria. So we came to talk about Nigeria.
Of course.
The election has come and gone, and we are Democrats. Laji Atiku Abubakar is a Democrat. Governor Peter Obi is a Democrat. We accept the decision of the Supreme Court. We think it's a strange decision. We're yet to see the reasoning behind that judgment. We hope that someday we will be able to see that reasoning and understand how they saw the petition. But for me, the key issue is about the building of institutions in Nigeria. In 2003, when it was very unlikely that General Buhari would defeat Obasanjo in an election, at the appeal court, there was a minority judgment by the Nigerian's current High Commissioner to the UK. in 2011, there were minority judgments in an atmosphere where many people in the country said, there was no way he could have won the election because he didn't even have the national spread. Even on his days at CPC, he had minority judgments led by Oguntade, and we had, and to suddenly come to a situation where no judge sees merit to a petition to the fundamental issues raised at that petition. Strange to me.
Would you really say that it was your party had really recovered when you went into the polls in 2019?
Guess what? We had recovered. Fundamentally, look at the primaries of the PDP in Port Harcourt. It was adjudged free and fair. All the candidates, all the aspirants who participated went and shook hands with the winner. Nobody went to court against it.
Nobody said it was complained. A fair conflict.
It wasn't. As at the time we were in Port Harcourt, nobody was sure how it was going to turn out. But it was certain that the party had. Look at the primaries in Kogi, the primaries in... The PDP is now beginning to understand the importance of building its own internal party organs. And you can see that it is something that ultimately will lead to the party becoming a reference point as we go to the 2023 elections and further elections down the line.
It's very rare that a presidential candidate will lose or that presidential elections will be upturned. We've only seen it once in Kenya, the continent.
So there's once. There could be twice.
Indeed, there could be. But when you look at what's been happening around perhaps the continent or the world, did you really think that this was going to be different?
Yes, there was a point in going to court if you didn't think there was going to be an outcome. Okay. The point that we went to court was that we thought there was serious issues for the court to consider.
Okay.
And if they said they didn't see any merit in it, it doesn't deviate from the fact that we have serious issues that they thought they should consider. Don't forget that just recently, the case of the Central Park 5, the young boys at the Central Park, that was sentenced by a judge, sent to prison, spent 13 years in prison, some of them, only to come out and find out, somebody came out and said, actually, they didn't do it. I did it. And when they checked the DNA test, everything they found out to be true. So the fact that the judgment was given is not the fact that it is right. The fact that the legality sometimes is not about what is right, it's about power.
I believe that if Nigeria, was allowed to, that it would very easily rival any other nation in the world.
There must have been times when you have questioned if this country was ever designed to be one. Has your faith in that ever been shaken?
I feel time is running out, and that we're making wrong decision after wrong decision, and we're slowly pushing the country towards a place where the inevitable will happen.
Do you ever see anywhere, in the midst of all the worry, in the midst of all the mistakes, any spark that sometimes inspires you?
There is nothing in us that says that we must destroy ourselves. It is the way we interpret our socioeconomic realities, the way we have been taught to see and interpret our socioeconomic problems that leads us to solutions that are not actually solutions. So I feel it's the way we think. It's not anything innate in us that causes us to fight.
Would you say that it is the manner in which we have practiced our politics that has brought up the divisions that we currently see?
We have a system that specializes in turning us into tribalists. So you have a system that is constantly asking you, what is your state of origin? Where do you come from? Our system socializes us into becoming tribal. I call it political tribalism. Nobody goes into a plane and the first thing you ask is, who is flying this plane? Okay, the pilot is Hausa, the co-pilot must be Yoruba. Nobody does that because we want to arrive at our destination safely. And yet we'll entrust our educational system, healthcare system, security system, and we entrust it to the hands of people on the basis of where they come from. And we wonder why our country is going down. It has nothing to do with diversity. It's the fact that you, for whatever reason, will not allow your best hands in critical sectors of your economy and society.
Did he ever explain to you why the Senate still accepts ministerial nominees without portfolios?
For that, I can say it's something that he consistently fought against in his 12 years in the Senate. This bow and go phenomenon, this ministerial
screening exercise
without portfolios. It makes absolutely no sense. None. And in the article, it's a low-hanging fruit. You don't need to amend any, you don't need to do anything. There is no way you can screen people for a job and you don't know the job they are going to get. So it makes absolutely no sense. Presidents, I don't know why Nigerian presidents are afraid or unable, I don't know what it is, to simply attach a portfolio to the ministerial nominee and send it to the Senate. And I also mentioned how the Senate doesn't do a good job with screening. You can't have 109 people trying to ask one person, have you ever gone for an interview and you're interviewed by a board of 109 people? It is very inefficient. You have committees. You know, if somebody is supposed to be Minister of Justice, send him to the Justice Committee. There might be 20, 25 senators in there. They can spend the whole day. You can screen all ministerial nominees, 43 of them, in one day.
Have you found people, though, saying to you, why are you leaking our secrets? I mean, teaching people how to make money and grow their money, in whose interest is that?
Well, I think it's going to be in all our interests. So I think typically all over the world, when it comes to financial services and giving out products and stuff, financial services people tend to focus on the financial jargon, and most of the people that they're serving don't understand, you know, what they're buying, or they don't understand what it means to put money in an investment product. It all goes over their heads.
What has the feedback been, especially in the aftermath of your new book? Have you told people, have you heard people saying, this is really the situation I found myself in and this is how I was able to get out? Or do you have people saying, no, how those people actually got out was not realistic?
Do you know what is so interesting? So the first book was honestly me just putting something out in the world and hoping that it did well. But how the impact that it had and how everything went blew my mind completely.
I mean, your university degree was abroad, your first degree and your master's degree. Yeah. If anybody was going to relocate, would that be you? Why haven't you?
If you think about it, because of the way Nigerians have been hardwired, that's why we do well in other countries. Like even people who have gone on this mass exodus, you find that they're thriving like in other environments because it's like you're finding a place where there's structure and it works.
But in terms of the political climate, whether the country is going to be stable, do they have that certainty in the world of business, or do they pretend, well, this country is too big to fail anyway? Okay,
I'll even start with this. With every uncertain market, it also creates opportunities, right? So a lot of foreign direct investment, in theory, would like to invest in uncertain markets like, you know, Nigeria, because the returns are higher. However, it also comes with a disproportionate amount of risk, because you don't want your money to come in and then you can't take it out, right? So I think that the government really needs to start looking at the economy. One thing I think this government has not really focused on is fixing the economy. We can have all these different socialist, you know, policies, but people are ultimately worried about how they're going to get their next meal, about an environment for their businesses to thrive.
What would you say is the long-term outlook for Nigeria?
The Nigerian entrepreneurial spirit is so special, and I think that is what is going to see us through, regardless, you know, of the obstacles. And I'm hopeful. I think that we have so many bright minds. We have a digital industry or a digital economy that is building regardless of the infrastructure that should be in place, you know, to support that. And I can't even imagine what we would be able to achieve when, you know, the right funds come or the right infrastructure comes. So I'm hopeful. We've gotten this far with very little help.
How is your faith not shaken by all that you have seen in circumstances of war, and even with the women whom you've come across, the women whom you've had to take care of?
I believe that God gives us a choice. You can decide to do good or bad, and this is a choice. And we can't blame God for what we are doing, because we can also choose to do good things.
You keep speaking for justice for the women who have been violated, especially in circumstances of conflict. You bring these issues to the fore and you ask for justice. Now, even in ordinary circumstances, it is difficult to bring justice to, women who have been raped. There's still very many issues around that. The testimonies that people are looking for evidence. I mean, women always have to provide evidence. And oftentimes they run to the doctors, to get them evidence. How easy would you say it has been to bring forth this evidence for women to get justice?
Yeah, of course, I think that this question of rape, I used to say that silence is a tool to perpetuate sexual violence in communities. And women are keeping silence because only when they face justice, the first thing that they will be asked is to prove, to get evidence of what happened. And it's not something that are happening where everyone can see and give testimony. So most of the time, maybe it can be only two people. And most of the time also, the men can deny what happened. I am a father of 5 children. I have 4 girls. I have grandchildren. I have a wife. I have a mother. I have sisters. And I think that if you can just think when you are treating, when you are hearing all these stories, and think about your own family, or your own relatives, and think that it can happen to you, it's so traumatizing.
Why does it appear as though the victims are not reporting this?
Victims have been reporting since now. Aside victims reporting, people were not believing victims. And the next thing was, how do we know this is happening? How sure are we you are not the one seducing? We started hearing more narratives of, oh, it's not the students that are being harassed. It is the lecturers that are being harassed with the dressings of the students. I dare to remind everybody that the moral obligation of self-control is on every individual. Guy, you look awesome. I find you very attractive. But as attractive as I find you, the onus of self-control is on me.
It does appear as though because of the lack of action by the universities, students are now beginning to take it
into their hands.
Exactly.
And that's why they have had to set up different people and film them. We even had a case about last year or so where the girl in question was sent to prison because it was alleged that aside filming the lecturer nude, they told him that they would not delete the thing unless he brought some money. So she earned a jail term, and it was sensationalized by the media to be females.
Blackmail?
Stop. Yeah. So people are not looking at the root causes now. People who don't have an idea how to handle things at that age are feeling very helpless and taking it into their hands and upon themselves to document evidence. In a situation where you are not supposed to have sexual relations with your students, it doesn't matter what the surrounding circumstances are. You're not supposed to do so. Some schools even went the extra length to say if you must have those kind of things to prove it is consensual between adults, report to the school. So until you have done those things, it's backyard business. Any lecturer found doing backyard business is a criminal and should be given due prosecution.
Was there ever a time during that period, before now, that you felt unsafe?
No, not until I think later afterwards, but then it was a very calm place and very peaceful.
How does it feel to be back to Nigeria?
Wow, for me it feels very good. I'm very happy because at the time I felt I wasn't feeling very safe anymore. They said to me, you know what, you guys are taking even our shops. Like in Johannesburg CBD, that's a very big place. You find a lot of Nigerians, foreigners, and these guys are having their like shops for clothing and shoes and all of those stuff. And the South African, they say that the spaces are being taken, that these are their stands, these are their spaces. Why should Nigerians and those people come and take their stand? That they fought apartheid to be happy, and just when they should be enjoying themselves, and those people all of a sudden are here taking over the whole premises.
Are you happy to have left South Africa under these circumstances?
Not really. I'm happy in a way that I feel safe in my own country.
You're happy
not,
for safety?
Yes, yes. Not feeling so bad about being scared about my life.
So now that you're back in Nigeria,
Yeah.
do you plan to go back to South Africa?
No, no, no.
Why?
No. Coupled with the whole experience and everything, I never felt safe lately. So my intentions are never to go back to South Africa.
Some will argue that the Africa which you speak for no longer exists.
Well,
Have you heard that?
absolutely. That sometimes does come up. And I would say this. Yes, there have been some changes in Africa, but the changes have been due to a form of westernization. It's not so much a change as the fact that perhaps some younger people are absorbing a culture different than ours. Doesn't change what our culture has always been.
It's like globalization, for
Of
instance,
course,
the
yes.
internet age. These things have naturally come. This is not some idea by the West to try and recolonize Africa.
But data does not support that, and the style in which it is being done. Yes, within societies and civilizations and communities, there is some organic, let's call it an organic progression. So if you have education, so this then comes with it and that comes with it. Well, that does take a longer period of time. How things have progressed, even within Western cultures, took centuries to get to where they are today. But then that does not eliminate the fact that there is a sort of a concerted effort by some people, some institutions within Western countries to push quicker, especially on certain issues, and not all issues, but on certain issues, people and populations towards that. So, for example, legalized abortion. Everybody believed that human life is sacred, human life is precious. Doctors were treating pregnant women as two patients just up until the late 1960s. The United Kingdom, once they legalized abortion, very quickly, within 5 or 6 years, it spread throughout Western countries. I am looking at data, I am looking at countries' policies, I am looking at cultures and customs, and how, for example, contraceptives that are being pushed on African nations, for example, and other developing countries like in Latin America, what the outcome is, what are the, let's say, the damage, what happens in the path of the donor who is sharing contraceptive and working along. Let's come a year later and see what has happened. If a woman decides she wants to use contraception, my own argument is let her know, let her have full and informed consent. Let her know exactly what it is that she's choosing. And if at the end of the day she decides she's going to use it, well, it is up to her. But my fight is with the donor who is bringing these things in, and they are giving it prominence and they are prioritizing it over every other need that we have. So I am not going to tell married people, you're using contraception, you're in the wrong. I mean, make your decisions, but let it be an educated decision, a full and informed, consent, especially with pharmaceutical products. That's what I'm saying.
What I would say to any Nigerian who is, upset and sad about the situation of the country, be a fighter. There can be so many bad things happening around you, but look for the good in people. Look for good, positive people that you can, your hope can be in them. And before you know it, those things will start reflecting in your life. And everything I say starts with the mindset. So if you see people who are thriving in the midst of this storm and just try to emulate their lives, take them as mentors. You don't have to be speaking to them every day. You don't even have to have access to them. I have people all over the world who mentor me through their activities, through their lives. Look at those people and let them be examples for you. And you see that eventually, different things will start manifesting for you. So just be a fighter and just, the luck will come.
Be a fighter. It's a word we will encourage us all to take into 2020. The challenges might seem many. Let's not even gloss over them. But fighting together, there's nothing we cannot surmount. On this note, we say thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Have a very happy new year.